Good morning. This is my favourite mug. That's a picture. That character apparently is called Natalie. And my girl Maddie drew that when she was 12, I believe, which she still is actually 12. Am I allowed to give out personal data like that? She's 12. Oh, anyway, hi, I'm Midnight Mule. I thought it might be interesting and perhaps useful if I give some information about my journey on finding out that I'm autistic, specifically Asperger's. What I thought I might try and do in a series of videos, but who knows, is explain life and how I see things as an aspie. And then anyone watching this who has a relative or a friend who's aspie may have a slightly better understanding of why they say what they say and do what they do, because you might better understand how they see things. Because what I found from reading is the way that us aspies see things is very different to the way that neurotypicals see things. So it started, I didn't get diagnosed in my mid-40s. So it was the end, I believe, of 2015, and there were 3 events that happened in a short period of time that made me think, I don't see the world the same as other people. And I always had a perception of other people, which was possibly uncharitable in retrospect. But then just these 3 events were like, oh yeah, something's not right here. So the first one was the end of 2015. We were in the local village hall, and there was a drama group there. The local kids from the village had a drama club. They met up every Saturday, and they were putting on a show. So I'm guessing there was maybe 70 people there to watch it, and the kids were all getting ready, and my mother-in-law had come over from Nottingham. We live in Cheshire. So she came over and she was sitting next to me, and I turned to her and I said, do you want to be here? And she was like, oh yeah, I want to be here. I said, because you think you should be here? She said, oh no, I actually want to see how the kids do. And then I turned to my wife on the other side and said, why are you here? And she said, oh, I want to see them. And I was thinking, oh, okay, that's because I was dragged along. I was taken there because I had to go there because I had to see the kids in the play. Now, don't get me wrong, I care a lot about the kids and I hope they have a nice time, and I wanted them to do well in the play, but I didn't have to see the play for them to have a good time in the play. I had no desire or interest to see the play myself. It would be enough for me for them to come back from the play and said it went well. I absolutely did not need to see it. And I assumed that all the parents there were there because they thought they should be there to watch their kids, because it's what people did. I didn't realize they actually wanted to be there to see their kids. So although that might sound like I'm a nasty person, it's just the way some aspies, certainly I am. I don't need to be somewhere. And when I was at school, I was like in the junior school, so ages 7 to 11, I was in the play every year, the Christmas play, and I was always given a major part. And I suspect it's because I could memorize lines rather than for any acting ability. And I don't know if my dad ever went to those. My mum probably went both years, and the play would be on for 2 nights. She'd be there for one of them. But it made no difference to me at all if she was in the audience or not. What's that matter? I've got to go on the stage, I've got to say these lines, move to this point, do this thing. I don't care if someone's watching me or not. It doesn't affect what I'm doing. So it does work both ways. I don't need to see my kids do it, but equally, I don't need my family members or friends to see me doing something or not doing something. Not from to me, I guess it's like an ego thing, which I don't get. But obviously I accept it's not an ego, and a neurotypical genuinely wants to see their child or grandchild do a certain thing. But for me, it's enough to know they enjoyed it. Another realization happened at a similar time, was to do with holidays. Now I might do a separate video about holidays, but my perception of holidays was people went on holiday to wherever it was, so they could then tell their friends, hey, I went to so-and-so or such and such a place. So if someone went to, a lot of European destinations are popular from England, so they might go to, I don't know where they go, France, Spain, Costa del Sol, something like that. The reason they went was so they could come back and bore people at work with holiday snaps and say, I've been here, I've been there. And then around the end of 2015, I was talking to somebody and I found out actually people went on holiday because they wanted to go on holiday and it was a nice experience for them. But for me, holidays were always something to be endured. So if I was ever away on holiday somewhere, and we rarely went abroad, it was normally a cottage somewhere we'd hire in England, I'd be counting down the days till I could go back home again. And I just don't need to go on holiday. I like having a break, but for me a break is being at home and being left alone. It's why pay all this money, go to all the effort of travelling and then existing somewhere else. And I think the reason for this is I live in my head. I'm always living in my head. Maddie's on the floor looking very bored. She wanted to be in here now. Do you want to go out? Are you okay? She's playing on her 3DS. Yeah, holidays are... I just don't need to do them. If I don't need to go to Egypt to know about Egypt. I could watch a video or I could read a book. But if I did go to Egypt, I have to endure the flight. There's the cost. There's probably the heat when I'm there. There's the different foods. And for me, everything's about information and data, and all that information that I would gather from being in Egypt, and that's an example of Egypt, I could get online. No, except there are certain nuances, like I can imagine it's hot and dry, but maybe I need to be there to see, oh, it's hot and dry. But that in no way justifies the difference. Or the Amazon rainforest, I can see something online and think, okay, that's the Amazon rainforest. I don't need to invest the time and money to be there to find out, oh, and this is the Amazon rainforest. So that was the second wake up, that people go on holiday because they enjoy it rather than, like me, they go and endure it. Big difference. The third thing was I used to go to church. That might be another video talking about various church things. But again, church was something to be, by and large, endured. And there was somebody at work who in many ways was similar to me, had a similar outlook on life. And I was chatting to him again at the end of 2015 and about church. And I found out that often he enjoyed going to church and he enjoyed the whole church experience. And that was a big wake up, because that wasn't the case for me. That church was full of difficult situations. And I since found out after being diagnosed that a lot of churches are not Asperger friendly. And that is absolutely the case. So you'll go to a church and there'll often be people on the door and they want to shake your hands. I don't want to touch people's hands. They might be dirty. And even if their hands are dirty, the last person who shook their hand, they might not have had a clean hand. And then you've got to sit through the service with this dirty hand the whole time. So what I used to do is I would carry one of the kids, if possible, would get into the door and I'd pick up the kids and then walk through. Oh, sorry, I can't shake your hands. And I'd get one of the kids to shake the hand. So I'd get around it that way. And then typically I've been to lots of different churches. There's often a hymn prayer sandwich. And there's the sermon. Now the sermon, by and large, if it's a good sermon, I'm very happy with the sermon. That's the best part of the meeting. So there's the sermon. So I can enjoy that part. And then afterwards people would chat about various things. But the dry air I found difficult. Sometimes the acoustics and the sounds. I've got a real issue with sound. Sounds hurt me sometimes. Certain sounds. It was just weird. So to find out that somebody who was very much like me enjoyed church, whereas I struggled with church, and that wasn't from a theological point of view, that was interesting. Now, for various reasons, my wife, for a short while before this, had been looking into autism and Asperger's. So I was chatting to her, and then I did an online test, and it came back as high chance of being aspie. So I looked at what happens in Britain about getting diagnosed, and you can go to your local GP and they may decide upon chatting with you to refer you to some expert, and the whole process could easily take a couple of years before you get diagnosed. I didn't want to wait for that. I thought, well, either I am or I'm not. I want to know. So I went down a private route, which meant I couldn't just go to meet a psychiatrist, I guess the profession is, to be diagnosed. Had to be pre-diagnosed by somebody who would decide if possibly I am aspie. So that's what I did. I went down and I had to, obviously it's private, had to pay to meet someone who then chatted with me for a couple of hours. I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 hours, maybe 4 hours. And at the end of it, they seemed to think I probably was aspie, and I didn't know how they concluded that, but there we go. And then they arranged for me to meet with the psychiatrist, and then the psychiatrist met with me, and they were, yeah, you're Asperger's. And so that was pretty much it. It was very straightforward. Cost, I think, it's probably a few £100 in total, and I had to drive. It was about an hour away or so, the place I was going. On finding out that I was Asperger's, that was really good and really bad. The good was it made my past make an awful lot of sense. I could then understand why so many things in life that were a mystery were a mystery. It's because I didn't see things the same way as other people see things. The bad side was the realization just how many people through my life that I'd hurt emotionally. I'd always been aware that people got upset with things I said, occasionally did, but mostly said, and I could not understand why. Everyone just seemed like a snowflake. But at least now I had something to start looking into, and I could try and understand what it is that I say that people find so offensive, because to me I just say what's true. But a lot of people don't like what's true, so you have to sugarcoat it, and that is really difficult for an aspie. Anyway, I think that's pretty much my story. That's all I've got to say at the moment on that. I hope you have a nice day or night, depending what time of day it is when you watch this, and I'll hopefully see you another time.